Mheshimiwa Rais, kuhusiana na ada ya nyumba umeitaja, unafahamu kwamba kuna Wakenya wengi bado hawajaridhia licha ya kwamba kuna agizo kutoka mahakamani, na nakumbuka juzi ukiwa kwenye mkutano wa diaspora pia ulisisitiza ukasema kwamba housing levy lazima itekelezwe na kadhalika. Hebu tuelezee, kuna mabadiliko yoyote baada ya mahakama kutoa agizo lake na wewe kuendelea kusukuma kwamba ni sharti Mkenya atozwe hii ada ya nyumba?
Mahakama walisema hivi. Mahakama walisema hii ada ni sawa kama Wakenya wote watalipa.
Hakuna uongo hiyo, uongo hiyo.
That's what they said.
Mr. Rice, Mr. Uongo, mahali utakuwa unasema uongo utakuwa unapigwa kiboko moja. Tunataka tuhesabu ni viboko vingapi huyu Mr. Rice atatandikwa.
They said it should not be discriminatory.
Mr. President, they didn't say that.
Kuna mkakati
exactly what they
said. It is as it is discriminatory. And therefore unconstitutional.
No,
you're interpreting.
The problem of unconstitutional was made by the media.
And we find that the introduction of the housing levy amendment to Section 84 lacks a comprehensive legal framework in violation of Article 10, 201, 2010 of the Constitution. That levy against persons in formal employment to the exclusion of other non-formal income earners without justification is discriminatory and irrational and arbitrary and in violation of Section Articles 27, 201, B1 of the Constitution. And flowing from those findings, we find as follows that, and these are our declarations, Section 76 to 78 of the Finance Act, amending Section 7 of the Roads Board Act, 87, amending Section 28 of the Unclaimed Assets Act, Section 88 and 89, repealing Section 29 of the Statutory Instruments Act, are unconstitutional, null and void. That Section 84 of the Finance Act violates Article 10, 2BC, 27 and 201 of the Constitution and is therefore null and void. That an order is granted prohibiting the respondents from collecting, charging or otherwise the charge known as the Affordable Housing Act on the basis of the Section 84, and all prayers on the consolidated petition not specifically granted are dismissed, and this being a matter of public interest litigation, each party shall bear its own costs.
The problem of unconstitutional was made by the media. Unconstitutional. Why did the court say we should continue to collect?
Because there's an application for stay orders.
How do we continue? No. How do we continue to do unconstitutionality?
No, Mr. President. At least you can agree on what the court said.
Yes.
And the court said that we've looked at everything and we arrive at the decision that this is discriminatory. Because of that, it doesn't agree with the Constitution or Article 10 on governance, and therefore it is null and void.
No.
Kingine ambacho labda Mheshimiwa Rais nikuongezee, ilisema mahakama pia ilisema kwamba hakuna mkakati maalum kupitia KRA jinsi fedha hizi zitakusanywa.
Absolutely. Now that is what they told us to fix. And that is why we now have a law in Parliament. What the court said there are groups that are not paying, that are not paying in the current setup. And we have said we are expanding the net of the payers. It will give us actually more money.
Have you stopped to wonder or ask what the people think, what their sentiments are about this? Because times are tough, Mr. President.
Put in mind, 70% are saying no to this program.
Just wait. I want you to go to where these Kenyans are working. Go and ask them. Go and ask them.
Mr. President, I don't think there's anyone saying that you should stop it.
I don't want to be...
Mr. President, if you remember, Mr. President.
I want to transform Kenya.
Yes, if you remember.
Transforming Kenya is not a walk in the park. Transforming Kenya is not going to be done using convenient...
Ruto alijua akiitisha press watu hawatasikiliza. Akaita hawa wanahabari ndio aende apate nafasi ya kuongea. Mbona hawapi time ya kuongea?
Politically correct popular decisions. Some of the decisions may be difficult now, but we will all see the benefits as we go.
No doubt about that, Mr. President.
It is the wrong time. We've had housing as a plan for the last 50 years. Are you telling me for the last 50 years there was no correct time?
Mr. President, let's stay to the housing fund, because when it started and you were walking around the country and selling this dream to many Kenyans, you told us this was a fund and we will contribute. And if you didn't want the house or didn't benefit, at the end of the day, you would get your money out at some point. Then overnight, in Parliament, it turned into a levy and a tax. What really changed and what caused you to move from a fund, which was really, really contributory, to this discriminatory fund that even the court has found to be? And does this mean that this plan changed overnight, or what really happened to cause you to make these changes? And just to stay on that point, was it necessary that we would start all these funds together in terms of, was it a must that you start the housing fund? You are here fighting the fire of housing. Again, you start the health crisis. Before this is done, even it's off, you are dealing with the taxation, And because of that, nearly every government agency is now waking up with taxes. So you find, levies going up by 3,900%. You find even pets now they're going to be taxed. And Kenyans are wondering, what has happened? Do you feel that you're out of touch with the people that you lead? Because then it will explain some of the decisions that you are doing.
Sikiliza hapo vizuri venye anatoka kwa point. Unajua hawezi jibu swali. Akiulizwa swali la taxi, hawezi akajibu, ana divert. Anatoka hapo kabisa.
Thank you very much for asking that question. Let's start with the levy. I proposed a fund. Yeah? There is a principle in Kenya today called public participation.
How comes that? Anatuambia public participation. Hiyo public participation ilifanywa na kina nani? Ni wabunge waliifanya ama ni wananchi nafaa waifanye?
It went to public participation.
Uongo.
And Parliament, when coming from public participation, came and said it should instead be a levy, right? And as president, if the people said they wanted this changed into a different way of doing it.
Mr. President, on the question of accountability, because it is good that you highlight what happened at the public participation, and you say that Kenyans said they don't want it as it was structured that time. You also attribute responsibility to Parliament that they decided it should be a levy. Then you say, let us change how it works. So I see a bit of distribution of responsibility. But did Kenyans tell you they wanted to be a levy or a tax? Did Kenyans tell you they wanted to be a levy or a tax?
What Kenyans told me is that they want jobs. Yeah?
On that particular question,
Kenyans
the participation was on the housing levy,
you,
Mr. President.
I was. But when Kenyans tell you they want jobs, it is you as a leader to figure out where those jobs are going to come from.
And so you presented a housing levy in the finance bill of 2023.
I presented to the people of Kenya housing, and I told them I am going to create jobs using this housing. And they agreed with me. And I have created jobs using housing. The mechanism of delivery could be this way or that way. Did I make a commitment to the people of Kenya that I'm going to implement housing? Yes. Did I tell them we will create jobs using housing? Yes. Have I implemented the program on housing? Yes. Have I created jobs using housing? Yes.
That you did and you are doing.
And you see,
Mr. President, sorry for this, but Mr. President, you are saying that you promised all those things and you are doing. But when people tell you, we don't want it, it is too expensive for us, you change it from a levy, from housing fund, from a contribution to a tax that is not even, you can't recoup it after the 7 years. How did the translation into that become?
You see, Sam.
Hapo sasa ndipo kauongo kalianza kuuma kabisa, akaona kwamba Sam Gituku ni kama anaingililia uongo zake kabisa na anampata.
You know, you're splitting hairs.
I'm not splitting.
Yes, you are. Because what you are saying, you're trying to find fault. What is the greater good? What is the national interest? I mean, to you, does creating 120,000 jobs register anything good?
It is a good thing, but I'm asking you about
making
public
sure
participation
that
that's
making sure that an ordinary person who would otherwise never have a chance to own a home, now they have a chance to own a home. Does that make sense to anybody? Yes,
Hapo Mr. Ruto kabisa alishindwa kujibu maswali, sababu anajaribu kuulizwa maswali lakini hajibu. Sasa ameanza kuwa mkali, It
does.
And the
so
process.
you see, if you pass an exam with 80%, it's an A, my brother.
Mr. President,
it may have,
Mr. President,
it may
the
not
question
be
we are asking,
100% what I wanted,
Yeah.
but it is 80% what I wanted. It is doing 80% of the job. Surely give me some marks.
Fair
Mr.
enough.
President,
Fair
the
enough,
question
President.
is at what cost?
At what cost?
At what cost, Mr. President? Because granted, the people told you they need jobs. This means they do not have the jobs. This means they do not have money in their pockets. And in response, what you're doing is taxing them further.
But let me ask you, my dear sister, the people who are working today did not have a job, right? Those are the people in the street. They didn't have a job. The people who have a job have had to pay 1.5%. 1.5% so that we can give a job to somebody else. And for your information, that somebody else that is getting a job is a taxpayer. They contribute to what we eventually earn. Is it too much for us as public servants who earn a salary to give 1.5% of our salary so that somebody else, another Kenyan, who is also a taxpayer, who also deserves something, they don't have a job because the job maybe they would have, I have. But I'm being asked, contribute 1.5% so that that other Kenyan who is walking in the street can have a job.
But it's not just that, Mr. President.
Let me just finish. They too can own a home the same way you own a home. I don't think that is being asked.
Sikiliza sasa, dokta ameulizwa swali, hajajibu swali, amemianda round, amezunguka, finally akawaacha tu hanging, hajajibu swali.
Kuna
It's not just that, Mr. President.
Bado hujalijibu la mwenzangu Wafula pale, amesema iweje wakati huu ndio munaleta tuseme hizi taxations nyingi, mumeanza na affordable housing na bado hatuja elewa vizuri zaidi, tuko kwa health, bado tunajaribu taxations. Kwa nini zimekuja kwa wakati mmoja kiasi cha kwamba Mkenya anasikia uzito? Kwa nini isikwende step by step kiasi cha kwamba hata Mkenya atajua ni kweli tunasonga mbele lakini si finyiki, maisha yako sawa?
Wacha nikueleze. Mambo ya health kwa mfano. It is the profiling, it is the spin that you people are many people, let me not accuse you, many people are spinning it. What are we doing? What are we doing in health? We are saying in health, we want to reduce those who are, and they are, by the way, the majority of the people who are, when I spoke about hustlers, people thought I was not serious. I was very serious. That is why I am saying, those of us who have a job, let's contribute 1.5%, good people, so that those of us who are hustlers, the people in the street, can, even them, they can have a job. They now have 120,000 of them on a job. That's number one. On this, on the health, what are we doing? We are saying three things. Number one, for the first time, every Kenyan, even those who today cannot afford nothing, they will have a health insurance. For the first time. Number two, those who, and the kind of unfairness that there can be. Mama Mboga is paying 10% of our income for health insurance. William Ruto, the president of Kenya, is paying 0.001%. Why? All we are saying is let everybody pay an equal percentage of what they earn. Is that too much to ask? What will happen? The people who are paying 500 will come down to 300. Is there anybody saying that there are people who will get an insurance cover who do not have? No. Are there people who are saying that those at the bottom of the pyramid will reduce their money or their contribution from 500 to 300? No. The people who are talking are not talking about those things because they are not convenient and because many of us believe those people don't matter. I want to tell you, my friends, those people are also Kenyans. They matter the same way we do. Let us give them a chance.
And Mr. President,
let us give them a chance to also participate in Kenya. Let us give that fellow, that mama who has no chance. And let me tell you, for the first time, a person who would otherwise die of cancer or diabetes or hypertension, because when they go to hospital, they are told they don't have the money. For the first time, we have a special kitty, which all of us will contribute and give everybody a chance at life. I mean, my friends, all we are saying is, let us have a country where nobody is left behind.
Maybe the question...
Because we are just thinking about ourselves. We are discussing how our salary is going to be, how 1.5% of our salary. There are people who have never seen who have never seen a pay slip. There are people who really, genuinely don't have a chance at life. I am asking the rest of Kenya, please, let us give a chance at life to many more Kenyans than those of us who are employed. We are only 3 million. We have 10 million people out there.
Mheshimiwa Rais, umesema kwamba makato haya mapya ya bima ya afya yatashughulikia kila Mkenya kupata matibabu. Na kwa Wakenya ambao hawana uwezo wa kulipia bima hii, mtawashughulikia vipi kama serikali?
Kabisa, you have asked me the best question. Ukisoma sheria mpya ambayo tumepitisha hizi sheria 4, tumesema wale wa Kenya ambao hawawezi kulipa, serikali ya Kenya tutawalipia. Kila mtu atakuwa na bima ya afya.
Uko na takwimu ni Wakenya wangapi? Na
wale tayari tuko na wale ambao wako katika program hii yetu ya social cash transfer. They are about 2 million. But my estimate is that another 3 million will be in that category. People who cannot afford. Hawa pia watu karibu 5 milioni watapata bima ya afya, italipwa na serikali ya Kenya katika mpango mpya. Jameni, na wauliza wa Kenya, hata na wao ni wa Kenya, tuwafikirie. Na wale wako chini pale, karibu wa Kenya wengine karibu 8 milioni 9 ambao wanalipa saa hizi shilingi 500, tutawapunguzia shilingi 300 kwa mwezi. Na wale hawana uwezo kabisa tutawalipia. Na jambo lingine la muhimu zaidi, wacha niwaambie, hii ni ya muhimu na Wakenya wasikie. Pesa ya NHIF kwa sasa karibu 50% inabebwa na watu wanafanya kitu inaitwa fake claims. Mumesikia kwa mfano kuna hospitali moja hapa Kino. Mumesikia? Ilikuwa kwa vyombo vya habari. Ati wanafanya operation ya upasuaji kuzidi Kenyatta, Aga Khan na hospitali zingine zote combined. Ni nini wanafanya? Ukora mtupu. Yeah? Wanaenda saa zingine wanatangaza ati kuna medical camp. Lakini ile medical camp sio eti ya ukweli, ni kukusanya wagonjwa. Alafu wanachukua majina ya hao watu, wanakuja wanajaza form ya NHIF, wanawalipia wao. Alafu bila ya wale kujua, wanaenda kuclaim pale NHIF. Ndio sababu tumeweka sheria maalum inaitwa Digital Health Bill ama law, ambayo sasa itatusaidia kufunga hiyo mambo yote. Na ndio sababu Sam, nikwambie, ndio unaona wewe Wafula usikize vizuri, ndio unaona wale wamepeleka makesi kotini ndio wawa, kwa sababu hawataki hii sheria. Ndio wanaendesha hii propaganda kubwa, iko shida kubwa sana, Wakenya wapinge hii mambo ya health, kwa sababu wanataka kuendelea kuiba pesa ya wananchi ama ya afya.
Kwa nini usiwafungulie mashtaka Mheshimiwa Rais?
Wale tayari tumewashawafungulia mashtaka na tayari tutawapeleka kotini, kwa sababu we want to make sure, my friends, wakati unaona kesi iko kotini, imetumwa kotini na watu ambao ni beneficiaries ya the kind of corruption that is going on in NHIF. That is why they don't want us to change the law. That is why they have put together big cases to stop the laws we have changed, because these laws will change and seal the loopholes they've been using to steal our money. And I am very determined, by the way, to stop them. And I will stop them.
Mr. President,
because
yes.
we have dissected the problem properly. And we want a country that leaves nobody behind. That is why we have the digital health bill. We have the social health authority that is going to make sure that we carry everybody along.
Right.
And I am very confident when the court finally sits, they will see the value we have in this bill. I am not a madman.
Right. And Mr. President,
to do things that I know are not good for the country. But also, I am this one person. You know, the problem we've had in Kenya, my dear sister, is that leaders have never wanted to do the right thing. We know what is right, but we want to do what is convenient. We want to do what is politically right. I have decided, as William Ruto, that we have been looking for a guy to bail the cat. I will do it. We have been looking for a person to blame when we do the right thing. I'm ready to carry any blame. But I must do one thing. I must do what is right, and I must sort out our country. We've been postponing this, you know, and people would rather, and many people ask me, oh, you know, the way you're going, you will not get a second term. You know, let me tell you, I am very clear in my mind. I was not elected to look for a second term. I was elected to get the country out of the mess. I was elected to create jobs. I was elected to implement universal health coverage that has been on our cards forever. I intend to do precisely that. Right. Many people, including my friends who are religious leaders, they have told me, oh, you see, you know, even though you said this, you must not do it, you know. That is what even the opposition is, they wrote in their manifesto, the housing, but now when it comes to implement it, they don't want to do it because they want us to continue the same thing, to lie to the people. To lie to the people, we are going to do this. When you don't mean it, we're going to do this.
Mr. President,
for the first time,
yes.
I meant everything that I wrote in that manifesto.
Right.
And I have every intention to make sure that I implement it because I know finally the people of Kenya will know that I did the right thing and they will reward me accordingly.
Sam, maybe just the question that still remains.
Just a moment, yeah? Yes. Because we need to transition in the next few minutes to the question of corruption and the war against it. Yeah. But you're saying something, I have read the bill, and most of us have, I mean, the laws now, and they're quite transformative, so to speak. But then again, the process is as important. I have heard you on several occasions saying that the contribution to the Social Health Insurance Fund will be 2.75%, so that it is equal across board. Your Cabinet Secretary, Nakumicho Wafula, says that I had actually said it was going to be 2.75%, but capped at 5,000 shillings. And I wonder, because the law as it is says that the Cabinet Secretary shall bring regulations to the floor of the House. That has not happened. You are speaking about 2.75% without a cap. USCS is saying with a cap. We have had the experience of rates being proposed. Just hold on.
I didn't tell you that there will be no cap. I told you 2.7% provide equity. What will happen is we are taking the regulations to the public. Yeah, because that's what is required of us.
So what is the rate?
And many Kenyans, it's 2.57, it's 2.75. Many Kenyans will speak to it. You know, whatever Kenyans will speak to it, they will look at it this way, they will look at it that way. It will go to Parliament. Parliament will speak to it. Finally, the final product will come from public participation.
And that is the essence of my question, Mr. President, if I may conclude it. That is the essence of the question, because Kenyans will speak. It will go to the floor of the House. They spoke on housing levy. It went to the floor of the House. it was changed, totally different from what was taken to the people. How shall we trust the process?
You know, that's what democracy is all about. You know, many people actually have told me, what you're trying to do in Kenya is not possible. Because many countries that are democratic, you cannot do this. For you to do this, you have to be like country X, where the president says, and it's final. You know, that is what happened in other countries. I don't want to mention countries. Yeah, this only happens in countries that are not democratic. But I'm telling them, I will persuade the people of Kenya. That's why I'm sitting here. I am sitting here to persuade the people of Kenya, so that because I know what we are doing is not normal. And by the way, it is not that I expected that it was going to be smooth sailing. I knew it was going to be difficult. Because what I am trying to do is transformative. What I am trying to do is to change Kenya. I am challenging the status quo. I am challenging what has always been there, the norms. And that's why even you guys, you look at me and you're wondering. But, you know, that's how we are going to change a country. Changing a country is not a walk in the park.
Utahusisha wananchi katika hili swala?
Kabisa, si ndio nimekuambia, saa hizi tumepublish regulations. Sasa imeenda
bila mabadiliko yoyote kama
imeenda kwa wananchi.
Na je, hisia za mwananchi utazisikiza ama utazikumbatia?
Vile wananchi walibadilisha housing levy, si nilikubali. So ikienda bunge, ikienda kwa wananchi, wananchi wenyewe waseme.
It is not citizens that changed it, it is parliament.
It's parliament.
You should go and read the public
participation report. I read it, and majority of them were opposed to the introduction of it.
Read it again, and Parliament took into account the views of the people who went to for public participation. And you see, Parliament is also an independent institution. You want me to dictate to Parliament, and I will not, Sam. You know that's not possible.
Mheshimiwa, naomba tuendelee na mjadala sasa katika swala la vita dhidi ya ufisadi. Umekuwa na umetoka kifua mbele, baadhi ya hotuba zako katika kipindi cha wiki moja pia imesisitiza sana swala hili la vita dhidi ya ufisadi. Lakini kwa upande mwingine hizi asasi ambazo zimepewa majukumu ya kutekeleza vita hivi pia ni kana kwamba vinasukumwa huku na kule. Kwa sababu gani? Nitakupatia mfano. Kesi ya Kimwarer na Aror hivi majuzi imetaja kuwa hakuna ushahidi wa kutosha. Kulikuwa na jitihada pale za tume ya ufisadi na maadili nchini katika kuhakikisha kwamba wanatengeneza kesi. Je, ina maana kwamba asasi zako kuna baadhi zinalegea katika kutekeleza wajibu wake, kwa mfano afisi ya DPP?
Kwanza niliwaambia Wakenya katika serikali yangu hakutakuwa na pesa ya kuibiwa. I think I made that statement. I said there will be no money to be stolen. And many people are wondering what that meant. Because what we are doing now, for example, and I will come back to your question, because we are talking about corruption.
Yep.
How do we put mechanisms in place to stop theft, corruption, pilferage? And I have told you the greatest enabler that is going to make us overcome the challenge of corruption is through digitization. It is the reason why I embarked on digitizing government services. From 350, now we are at 14,000. We were collecting 60 million on e-citizen every day. Today we are collecting 600 million every day. My plan is that by next year, we should be collecting minimum 2 billion shillings on e-citizen every day. What does that do? It stops the corrupt. It stops people stealing. It stops pilferage. And for your information, let me just give you a statistic. KWS, right? Their budget for a whole year was 4.3 billion, but given them actually a budget of 4.5 billion. In 6 months, because of e-citizen, in 6 months, they have collected 4.3 billion. Half the year, they have collected what we had, what they had been given as an estimate for the whole year, which means by the end of this year, they will double their collection. I'm just giving you one incident. So what will that do? That is how my plan on how to manage corruption, number one. Number two, I promised the people of Kenya that the independence of the judiciary is going to be sacrosanct. I can tell you for free that they have never received a telephone call from the president to tell them, manage this case in this manner, this corrupt person or that corrupt person. I promise the same to EACC, I promise the same to DCI, I promise the same to DPP. It is their responsibility. They ask me for support, and I have given as much support as I can muster to all these institutions. Let's come to the, are they doing what they should do? It is not for me to judge. It's for the people of Kenya to judge, because they report to us. I am telling them what I can within the separation of powers, that it is our expectation. That's why I'm speaking publicly, in public fora, to tell them, look, you know, the people of Kenya have expectations that those who are corrupt, and if there is anybody who is corrupt, has a matter, and they say, and one of the agencies say, oh, the president told us not to prosecute this person, I would say in public, in front of TV, they should tell me, because I will never do such a thing. Coming to Kimwarer, if you followed Kimwarer, I said in the campaign trail that the case for Kimwarer was a fraud, because it was. You know, because it was. Because that case was being used politically. And that is why I have said we do not want political cases. And that's why I have told the investigative agencies, I don't want them to help me with politics. I will do my politics. I will look for supporters. I will look for all these groups, you know, lobby groups and what have you. I will do politics. Them, they should dispense justice. And under my administration, there is nobody who will be prosecuted because of politics or politically, or because they are not aligned to this way and that way. But nobody is going to hide behind politics. That because you are a politician, or because you are a friend of the president, or because you are a relative of the president, you cannot be prosecuted. That one I have said in public, and I have told every cabinet minister, nobody should go to their office and tell them the president has sent them, or they are a relative of Mr. X or Mr. Y. I will not send anybody to any office to do anything. They must do their job in accordance with the law.
Mheshimiwa Rais, unaposema kesi ya Rod na Kimwarer ilikuwa ni utapeli, unamaanisha kwamba hakuna pesa zozote za mtozo ushuru zilizopotea katika kesi hii inayohusiana na mabwawa ya Rod na Kimwarer?
Sisi ndio tulipoteza hiyo pesa, kwa sababu serikali wakati ilienda ikasimamisha the contractors went to court, right? Because they hadn't committed any crime. Number one, we were supposed to give them land to do the dam. You know, we didn't give them the land. The land was there, but somehow, and I don't want to accuse, I think we have said let's not talk about the past. Whoever was there decided they should not get the land because they wanted to frustrate the project. The thing disappeared. The DCI was mobilized to go and get the contractor in Itare. You know, up to today, nobody knows what the problem was with Itare. They went to court. We have had to go and negotiate. I have had to go and negotiate with Italy, for your information, for us to settle, because we were going to pay 40 billion for nothing, without anything on the ground. So we've had to negotiate.
So then, is there a correlation between your negotiations with the Italian government, and the president was actually here, of Italy that is? Is there a relationship between that and the withdrawal of charges against all these accused persons?
No, ask the court. I mean, the court has been going on.
Yeah.
What did the court say? There were no witnesses, because what happened?
The court said this was a prosecution-driven acquittal, because there's no longer any cooperation. And the reason I'm asking this question is because you stood at the steps of the front of this building, and you said that you have agreed with the president of Italy to withdraw all cases against the farms in Italy, and Italy was also going to withdraw all cases against the government of Kenya.
Correct.
So I'm asking the question because initially there were several people that had been presented before court. Some of them, I think even the current central bank governor, Kamau Thuge. Is there a relationship? Because you said withdrawal will be done.
When we talked about...
Is there a consequence?
No. What we said about the withdrawal was they took us to court in London. We made a counterclaim just to make sure that we are not exposed. Mm-hmm. So when we made the counterclaim, then that's how the case was continuing. So we said, for that matter, they are going to withdraw their case in the arbitration court. We were going to do the same. It had nothing to do with the cases in Kenya because the cases in Kenya were criminal. The cases in the arbitration were contractual. So these were very different cases. So the case has been going on in the Kenyan courts, mention after mention. I mean, and by the way, those cases were going on even before I came to office. They had been there for 3 years, mm-hmm. and it hadn't moved 1 inch. Why?
Do you think there was any feasibility study done on the two dams? Do you know of any?
That is now for you to determine.
No, I'm asking
because,
you.
You have all the information because you know that there was supposed to be a feasibility study. You must be having the information.
I don't have the information. You're the president of Kenya.
Should be having
What's the feasibility study?
What I can tell you is that contract of Kimwaren and Aror was signed with other contracts, mm-hmm. similar contracts, in the front of State House here, in the presence of the president then. I wasn't even there.
And that's what I'm asking.
Those contracts were signed.
That's what I'm asking you. Are you aware of any feasibility study for the two?
I am aware that the contracts were as legitimate as they were signed.
Okay.
They were signed before two heads of government at that point in time. And if there was any problem with them, it should have come out in court.
The reason I'm asking that is because you then, I don't know, should I conclude that you don't have any information of any feasibility study? Because if there was none, then that is contrary to procurement laws.
If you know that there was none...
I'm asking, I don't know.
No, if you don't know, why are you asking?
I'm asking.
If you don't know, why are you asking?
I'm asking.
If you don't know, why are you asking?
I'm asking you.
No, if you don't know, why are you making an assertion on something that you don't know?
No,
if you don't know, why are you making an assertion on something that you don't know?
I've asked you a question.
What I can tell you is that, to the best of my knowledge, by the time contracts are progressed to a place where it is signed before a head of state, that those contracts should have met every condition.
And your predecessor found there was no feasibility study.
If he found out that there was no feasibility study, then he should have prosecuted the matter in the way it should have been.
Which happened. People were taken to court.
And then where did we end up with the contract? We end up with the government of Kenya.
Just on that issue, kindly.
And if it went to court for 3 years, why didn't it progress?
So we are looking at it even...
And the president then was in office. Why didn't it progress for 3 years? If it was as simple as there is no feasibility study, I mean, it should have been an open and shut case.
We have seen what the judge has actually said. And you look at a situation whereby the prosecution is literally paralyzed in court. And this is not just even Aror and Kimwarer. I mean, in the last 15 months, we've seen one case after the other collapse in court. And this is keeping Kenyans thinking. Yes, you came in and said at that time corruption was being weaponized. But now there's a feeling that now the law enforcers actually, it's a situation whereby there's protectionism instead of now the exact opposite of what was happening then. What do you tell Kenyans on this, where you find...
I want to tell the people of Kenya that I will discharge my responsibility in making sure that all independent institutions are appropriately facilitated. In fact, the DPP has sent a request on additional resources to hire more staff so that they can discharge their responsibility well, and I am looking at that request. We have given additional money to the judiciary. I will facilitate, my administration will facilitate all the independent agencies to discharge their responsibility. We will also dispense our responsibility in making sure that the judiciary is independent and doing their job. Yeah? That I will do. And I will make sure that nobody hides under the presidency, the government, friendship, in any anybody must be taken to court if they are committed crimes. But beyond that, I will also go the extra mile and prevent public money from being stolen. And that's what I'm doing. I am saying prevention is better than cure, they say. Yeah? That's why I'm saying for us to avoid unnecessary matters, let us see how we manage we manage public resources. And that's why I'm even telling, because there are some people who are still dodging the digitization process. They are still dodging the 222 government payment platform because they are used to paying things. In fact, I know, for example, some institutions, when we say they must pay through the digital platform, they are now asking for checks. Some of them are asking for back transfers because they don't want accountability. And I'm giving them a warning. We said by 31st of this month, every government service must be paid on e-citizen. And even land, which is the biggest challenge, we have now said the Ministry of Lands is going to be cashless, all the way to Mashinani. Anybody, and I'm telling Kenyans here, anybody who asks you for cash for payment of a public service, look at them in the eye and tell them they are fraudsters.
Na Mheshimiwa Rais, katika vita dhidi ya ufisadi na uhuru wa taasisi mbalimbali na mihimili tofauti ya serikali, umejitangaza wazi wazi kwamba hutalegeza kamba katika vita dhidi ya ufisadi.
Hutalegeza kamba.
Naam, na umekuwa na kauli ambazo umekuwa ukizitumia, na nikikunukuu wakati mmoja kwa kule magharibi ukizungumzia kuhusu wafisadi ambao unaamini wamelemaza sekta ya viwanda vya sukari. Ulisema ima uhame Kenya ama nikuweke jela ama usafiri uende mbinguni. Hili halijaonekana kuendana vyema na wachechemuzi wa haki za binadamu. Mbona usiruhusu mahakama ifanye kazi yake?
Nimezuia, si nimesema tutakupeleka mahakamani.
Inachukuliwa kama kitisho.
Lakini wacha nikueleze ya kwamba jambo la ufisadi ni figurative language to drive home the point that this is no longer a joke. And for your information, because of what I did, we have managed to sort out the biggest cartel in Mumias.
Vitisho vinafanya kazi?
No, sio vitisho, ni kuambia tu watu ukweli. Kwamba mahali mambo imefika, hatuwezi kuendelea vile tunaendelea. Lazima tubadilishe mwenendo wetu. And I am telling you, let me repeat here, that for those people who are corrupt, please look for another country. Because it is not going to be business as usual. Even as we look places where we find, even as we do what we have to do to make sure that all Kenyans are we avoid pilferage, we avoid corruption. Even as we do that, for those of the incorrigible characters, the people who benefit from corruption, the people who try even to influence the criminal justice system, you know, the people who beneficiaries, like what I talked to you about. I mean, surely the people who are going to court to stop, you know, implementation of programs that are public, you know, these are, and you know very well, you can see their fingerprints, that these are beneficiaries of corruption. They are so daring with impunity that they want to manipulate the whole system.
But
it is the same thing.
Isn't that democracy, really,
Mr.
President?
Is it democracy to steal?
No, sorry.
Going to
I'm
court.
talking about the question of going to court,
Yeah.
especially for the programs you're talking about.
No, I mean, I have no problem. I'm not complaining. I've said they've gone to court, but I'm going to call them out that I know you. I know the fellows who have gone to court. I know the fellows who are sponsoring this because I know them. They will not hide because I can see their fingerprints. Let me give you an example. I told the people of Kenya that we need to increase our savings as a percentage of our GDP, that we are doing very badly. Countries like China are at 55%. We are at 12%, right? How do we build our savings? You know, there are characters who went to court to say, let us continue paying 200 shillings. You know? And then Kenya is rated among the last countries on age-old poverty. You know, because if you save 200 shillings, Bwana Wafula, how much money? Surely. We have so many people. And that is how we do not have a pool of resources in Kenya that we can use to drive our own development. That's why we go borrowing left, right, and center. So we went to court, right? They went to court. I mean, we passed the law 2014. They went to court. They stole the thing 9 years, imagine, taking us from one courtroom to another. Then I called them and I told them, look at me in the eye, my friends. You have to stop this shit. You have to stop, sorry, you have to stop this nonsense. Yeah, it cannot continue like this, right? And they realized that I was not joking, you know? So we agreed on an out-of-court settlement because they knew very well that they were beneficiaries of this whole conundrum. What has happened? Just let me tell you. We have wasted 9 years. What has happened today is that we were collecting about 1.3 billion at NSSF. Today, we are collecting 6.5 billion every month at NSSF. We are going to double, Sam, we are going to double the amount of money in our savings in the next 4 years, just as I told the country. You know, that is transformative. But it has taken some, you know, tough engagement with corrupt people, you know, telling them it cannot continue like this. And I know when I believe this is the right thing, I go out of my way. Because, you know, I have been elected by ordinary people. They cannot do what I can do. They have given me the opportunity to do it for them.
Right.
So that we can begin even, the moment we have savings, we can even begin to reduce interest rates because we are talking about our own money.
Right.
We're not looking for money from other countries.
Mr. President.
This is how we're going to transform Kenya.
Mr. President, it's been 2 hours.
Ladies
My water is drained. Please sip yours as we transition to the next conversation, which is on governance issues, and Grace is going to take us through that.
Right, Mr. President, and this is basically point blank. Are you concerned about the performance of some of the people working under you, in particular cabinet secretaries? We saw you say that some CSs and PSs are clueless about their dockets some time back this year. And there was this report released by TIFA just about 2 days ago, which placed some 5 CSs at the bottom. And unfortunately, these 5 are part or are at the heart of Kenya's economy. Energy CS was at the bottom. Gender CS, Treasury CS, Water CS, Land CS. Are you concerned about their performance, and what are you intending to do about it, Mr. President?
Number one, I don't believe in TIFA.
Why don't you?
Because TIFA is a fraud. TIFA and all these opinion poll people, they are paid.
By who?
Whoever pays them. Because
But you just said
they
are paid.
they told us many stories. If it was TIFA, I would not be president. They said I would never win. They made all manner of allegations. So please, let's not talk about opinion polls. Let's not talk about TIFA. And I have no quarrel with them. Wanaweza kuendelea na kusema ile wanasema, which is okay. Let's go to the performance, minus TIFA. Yeah?
But we can see the results. We can see the results because...
Let's go to... okay.
Yeah, I'm saying we can see the results. You have dismissed TIFA, but say energy, which is at the bottom. This is definitely here because of the frequent power outages that have been experienced in the country. So it has to be true.
It is not true. Let me tell you that, yes, we've had about 4 different blackouts. And there is a reason for it, you know. And I want to tell the people of Kenya that, yes, there is a problem. The problem is not about generation, because we have enough power in the grid. The problem is about investment. We haven't invested in our transmission lines and distribution lines in the last 8 years. Why haven't we invested? We didn't have a plan, number one, a clear plan. And where we had a plan, many things went wrong. For example, the 3 or 4 lines that are giving us real trouble, yeah, are lines that have been in court for like 7 years. You know, we had a Spanish engagement with another group called Africa 50 that would help us connect the power from Takwel, the power from Ethiopia, and the power from Uganda into the grid, but those were never implemented. When I came into office, the first thing I did was, for example, there were transformers at the port for 5 years, and it only required 500 million. I paid it one day. That is why today we have connected power to Ortum. We are connecting power to Kitale from Takwel. We have so much power in Takwel, we cannot deliver it because there is no transmission line. What have we done? To be fair to, and I am not defending Davis, I just don't want him to be crucified for a problem that comes from afar. So what have we done? We have finally negotiated. I went to Korea. I negotiated a facility of 9 billion shillings. We are going to do 200 kilometers of transmission line, the ones that are part of what is causing the problem. We have finalized the procurement. Those will be constructed. We've also decided that because we do not have sufficient resources, we are going to work with the private sector. So we have another 8 lines, a total of 607 kilometers of transmission line that we have concessioned to a private sector for them to build the lines. And because we already have the law on wheeling charge, they will construct the lines, we will pay them as they transport our power. So we have a plan. And number three, we want to invest about maybe $100 or $120 million to island the supply of power, so that we will create about 5 zones. We already have 4 in place in terms of design, so that if there is a problem with power in one corner, it doesn't shut out the whole country, so that we isolate different places. It was supposed to be a factor of investment. And why is this the case, Sam? Just to, what we have done in the last 10 years, we have increased the number of people we are supplying electricity to from 2.3 million households to 9.4 million households. There should have been a commensurate investment to make sure that the transmission lines are strong enough to deliver power. So that was the gap.
But Mr. President, the bigger question is about, because you spoke to the nation. I think you are swearing in, was it CSs or who were you swearing in? And you said that you have a challenge with some of your cabinet secretaries and principal secretaries. There's certain things they do not know. In fact, you know more than they do.
I say,
how much of that is still a problem?
How much, when I said that, I was telling my CSS that read. If you remember the context, I told them, look, read briefs, understand your subject, understand your ministry, be on top of it. Because the moment I know more than you do about your ministry, then there is a problem, right? That was the context on. And what we have done concurrently, is we've had retreats of a cabinet. Yeah. We had one in Laikipia. We had another one recently. We are having one in February, just to make sure that we hem in everybody so that we are all aligned in the same direction. I want to tell you that many ministers, many PSS are now on the rhythm. They now understand where we want to go. And going back to what my sister said.
Grace.
Grace. What Grace said. There is all all that around, because the economy is difficult. So you will find young people saying this must be the man who is causing problems. We have a problem with energy. Then it is easy to blame the minister. But let me say a broader thing, in this context, that to be able to move forward as a country, there are three important things that we must do. Number one, we must control debt. Number two, we must control expenditure. And number three, we must find revenue. We must find revenue. Yes, I have gone out of my way, and I think we have a handle on debt. Mm-hmm. We're managing debt. Many Kenyans today are paying taxes. I am making sure that through digitization, we manage to collect as much as possible, and it is not lost. I know it is painful on some on Kenyans that they've had to pay more, but this is temporary, and this is work in progress. We are going to see how to improve that. The third most important thing, which is important to me, is how we control expenditure. Apart from cutting down on excesses, we also need to look at opportunities. Do you know that we have 287 agencies of government, parastatals and companies? 287. How much do I spend on these agencies every year? 250 billion. Yeah. If I could save 50, 60, 70 billion from these organizations, I would do a lot more, and I would not be pushing more people in the tax direction. And that is why we changed the law to facilitate privatization, to facilitate strategic investment, to facilitate merger of some companies, and to facilitate closure of some. Let me give you an example, because many people have been asking, so why does the government want to sell, this company and this company and this company and this company? Taxpayers' money is being used to support many of these companies. Let me give you an example. I know many people are very sentimental about KICC. We said we want to privatize KICC. Let me explain to the people of Kenya. KICC is an iconic building. Mm-hmm. It is the center of the city. Mm. All of us, including myself. When I came first to Nairobi, I came to that photograph place where we are holding KICC at the top. And that will continue. People will continue taking photographs at KICC. But that's not why KICC was not built. That was not why KICC was built. It was not built for photographs. It was built as a national asset. Mm-hmm. Let me tell the people of Kenya, KICC today is valued at 30 billion. Right? How much money do we get from KICC? Last year we got 29 million. The other year we got, I think, 40 million. How much? 40 million. What a waste, Because it is being managed inefficiently. I had to put 1.8 billion shillings to make it usable for Africa Climate Summit. Just imagine. So what I'm saying is, instead of having KICC as an office block, the whole of that KICC there has offices of this person and that person, they are paying nothing.
Right.
Yeah? Why don't we transform KICC for it to become the international conference center that it was built to be?
Right.
Right?
So when you...
Just wait, the international conference center. And you know how much money we should be making from KICC if it is worth 30 billion? Even nominally, we should be getting 3 billion shillings a year. How much are we getting? We are not getting 3 billion. We are getting 29 million.
But Mr. President...
This is an asset of Kenya.
Mr. President...
this is a property of the
that question about
Kenya.
Privatization of KICC, for instance, of course, there's work that has to be done, public participation, people give their views, and
correct.
Eventually the decision is made. So is the intention to sell it all, or is it A portion of
The
it?
intention is to commercialize. The intention is to have a mechanism, a strategic investor, so that we need to make it a true conference facility. And if we make it a truly conference facility, it will give us more than 3 billion shillings a year. Today, we are getting 29 million. If you ask any ordinary Kenyan, would we rather continue getting 29 million? Would we do a strategic investment that would give us 3 or 4 or 5?
Kwa hivyo kumaanisha Mheshimiwa Rais, changamoto inayoikumba KICC imepita ufahamu wa kuweza kwa serikali kuweza kuihakikisha kwamba inapata kile inachofaa kupata mpaka mnakwenda katika mkondo wa kuiprivatize.
Good question, my dear sister. KICC was not built yesterday. It's been there all these years. It has not happened in all the governments that came before me, right? And this is why I am proposing what I am proposing, so that we have a different, exactly answering your question. Wale hawakufanya, mimi nataka kufanya. I want to change KICC so that it makes money. Give me a chance to change KICC so that it makes money. Let me conclude by saying, because our international conference center at KICC is not working, it has no capacity to host. If you go there, if I didn't invest 1.8 billion, nobody wants to have a meeting in KICC because it is dark, it has no facility, it has no what, it is no toilets, nothing. So, what has happened as a result of underperformance of KICC? Do you know that Intercont Hotel is closed? Yeah. Do you know that Hilton Hotel is closed? Do you know that Crown Plaza is closed? Do you know that all these other hotels are struggling? Because we have no international conference facility. Conference facilities are the ones that support our tourism sector, our convention sector, our hotel industry. We not only want to invest or get a strategic investor for KICC, I am also going to get a strategic investor for Bomas of Kenya. We need to build another conference facility in Kenya, in Bomas of Kenya, and we need to build maybe 2-3 hotels in Bomas of Kenya. It is what is going to change the fortunes of our country, especially the space around tourism.
Right.
So let me persuade the people of Kenya, right? KICC is not being sold to anybody. KICC is not being taken anywhere. KICC will remain there. Those who want to take photographs, you can continue taking photographs. But for heaven's sake, allow me to get a strategic investor, and I am not going to do it at night. In fact, many people have been saying maybe we change the law to make it easy for government property to be disposed. That's not true. The reason why the former law was changed is because since 2005, or is it 2009 when it was implemented, we have not privatized a single thing because it was convoluted and it never went anywhere. Let me give you,
Mr. President,
benefits. Allow me, because you know this is a very important thing to me.
Yes,
so this is so when we said we want to commercialize KICC, there are companies, Grace, there are companies like Postbank. Every morning when we open Postbank, we lose 3 million. In the last 5 years, we have lost 1 billion shillings every year. How much? 1 billion shillings every year. Because nobody wants to make a decision about Postbank. I want to make a decision about Postbank. I want to get the employees who are working in Postbank. I want to second them to other institutions. We close down Postbank. We stop losing 1 billion shillings. We stop losing 1 billion shillings every year, and we do something with the fund that is there instead of taking money from the fund and spending it. And you know, we are just being not prudent at all. Let me give you another example. Because you know, this is what I want to do. This is what we are talking about. When we talk about privatization, we are not talking about just sale. We are talking about 4-5 aspects. There are places that will be leased. There are others that you will get strategic investors. There are others that you will get that you will take to the stock exchange. Let me give you another example. Kenya Pipeline Company. Kenya Pipeline Company is a company that is worth 300 billion Kenya shillings. How much?
300 billion.
300 billion. How much money are the people of Kenya getting from Kenya Pipeline? I think it is only once or twice that we have gotten 1 billion a year. Otherwise, we get 200 million, we get 300 million. This company, Kenya Pipeline, should be giving the people of Kenya 30 billion shillings every year.
So is it mismanagement or?
No, it is just strategic thinking that is not there. And that is what I want to do. Okay. It is just strategic thinking.
What's KCC?
I'll come back there. What we need to do is, you know, there are people who still that mentality, mali ya serikali si mali ya mtu. No. Mali ya serikali is our collective property, and it has to be managed well. And I have a responsibility to the people of Kenya that it is managed well, and I intend to manage it well. What have I done? I have changed policy. I brought the policy, because it is in my manifesto. I brought policy to cabinet. We said we need to change what we call government-owned enterprise policy. Ownership policy. As an owner, every shareholder demands money for their shares. We are the shareholders. We demand money from the companies that are owned by government. So what do we need to do, for example, in Kenya Pipeline?
Right.
Kenya Pipeline, there is nothing strategic about Kenya Pipeline. This is just a transporter or fuel. That's all. It's a matatu for fuel. So what we need to do, first I have told them this year, they must give us a dividend of 5 billion this year. And they're going to give it. Because I have told them, you have to stop all these shenanigans. This is public asset. We cannot be taxing Kenyans when there is an asset here that should be giving us
So
money.
how do you arrive at that target
Of?
5 billion?
It is the initial money, but it should actually be 30 billion every year, because any economist will tell you if your asset is this much, 10%, even if you were to, because if we were to sell Kenya Pipeline at 300 billion, we would get 300 billion, put it in a fixed deposit, we earn 30 billion every year. And yet we have the money sitting inside there. Okay. So let me conclude. Let me conclude by saying. Let me conclude by saying this. And I'm sorry, you know, I have to explain to the people of Kenya some of the things that are being, you know, misconstrued to mean that we are not being prudent. I brought policy, and I said we are going to make sure that every government asset gives money to the shareholder, the government of Kenya, so that we look for additional revenue, because we cannot borrow. We have pushed Kenya enough on taxes. The only other way to raise money is to sweat our assets. Yeah? Is to sweat our assets. We must get our assets to pay us dividends. That's why, for example, Kenya Power, we have removed 4 directors that I appointed into the board to allow the private sector to appoint directors, because we want it to be run with the private sector support, right, because we value what the private sector has to say. Let me conclude by saying the following. Why is this in the right direction? Let me answer what this good man has said. KCC, for example, we want to have a conversation with farmers. We want farmers to own KCC. We want to give them, we want to see with them already dairy board were in India. The Indian equivalent of KCC is paying farmers higher than our KCC for the same product, and is charging the consumer lower than we are charging, because they have built in much more professionalism, much more. So